Fighting games are a genre that has long been prevalent in the world of competitive and casual gaming. Not only that, but dating back even further to the era of the coin-op, arcades in the 90s and 2000s were booming harder than Bill Clinton's baby on Monica Lewinsky's dress.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
The act of tossing your hard-earned metal discs into an illuminated box and beating the shit out of your friend in some Mortal Kombat 4 is easily one of the top 10 things you could do on a Saturday afternoon, right next to gallivanting and gluttony. Speaking of Mortal Kombat, the bloody mess of a video game and one of my favorite franchises of all time had its debut in the form of an arcade cabinet. But back in the early days, Midway really banked on replayability through hidden Easter eggs and gory fatalities that people would figure out by complete accident.
Ow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sleepy now. I shouldn't have taken all that NyQuil before accepting this fight. What is this? Well, what are you doing? What do you mean, what am I doing? This is my move. No. Is this allowed? I read the handbook. This was not stated anywhere. Of course it's in the rules. If you just look, then you see everybody has their own thing. What are you planning on doing? Ripping it off? Yeah, I'm gonna rip it off. Are you sick? Are you sick in the head? Just take it up with HR. Oh, fucking hell. Jesus Christ.
Wins vasectomy.
I'm not proud of this.
Today I'd like to talk a little bit about the switch from arcade fighters to at-home fighters.
To Ken fighter games.
When most modern fighting games would make the switch over to home consoles, many groups of friends still found a way to play together. However, with a new playing field comes new obstacles. Super Smash Bros., an extremely popular party game that's bigger than ever, with its second installment in particular being typically favored among both competitive gamers and sexual deviants alike, all while being tied to the home console. In the first installment, released in 1999, it would be positively received for its music, original fighting style, and of course its multiplayer. The one thing that would hold it back though was its single player mode, because it was pretty much your standard arcade tower type mode with a few little bonuses sprinkled in. A Game Critics review when the game initially launched stated that there is little in the way of strategy, and the single player mode is pretty boring, and yet I still enjoyed the game. Why? Because once a buddy or two or three show up and the trash talking begins, the flaws become less apparent. I'll be honest, a lot of the replayability for me came from a friend on my grade school playground telling me I could unlock Goku if I completed 100 rounds without losing or did a backflip off the Taj Mahal. And I believe that because one, I'm a fucking idiot, and two, I kinda enjoyed the mystery of it. I still had fun attempting these crazy ass feats that my bitch ass classmates just blatantly lied to me about. As console-based fighting games would progress through the 2000s, single-player modes would become more fleshed out to not only make the purchase worth it, but to entertain kids like me who saw more to fighting games than just a gameplay meta. Kids like me who saw characters with intricate design and backstory. I gladly welcomed any extra content to keep me immersed in the world that was being created. As you could probably tell by these questionable financial decisions behind me, growing up I was obsessed with fighting games. I mean, Mortal Kombat, Killer Instinct, Tekken, you name it, I was obsessed with it. And while it was a great event for us to do together as kids, I found myself putting in a lot more hours when I would go home after a long day of chewing rocks. Honestly, I'd say a good majority of my childhood was spent playing fighting games alone like a fucking loser. Mortal Kombat has attempted to try other things like a failing marriage to less than stellar response. Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero and Mortal Kombat Special Forces were MK's first dip into the world of single-player experiences. However, with what's recognized as the 3D era of Mortal Kombat, we got some interesting additions. By the late 1990s, the series had begun to suffer from overexposure. There was an animated series that only lasted a season, the sequel to the popular first film bombed in theaters, a live-action series also only lasting for a season, a single-player standalone title being met with poor reviews, a Dreamcast port that people didn't care about, and another single-player standalone title being met with even worse reviews. This caused the franchise to put everything on hold and really focus on making the next entry a certified banger, because this one would be the first time a proper MK sequel would come to home consoles alone. In 2002, Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance released to critical acclaim, being met with praise for the way it completely reinvented the series. Not only that, but they added a few incentives to keep people playing, such as Conquest Mode, which at its core was just a series of tutorials and objectives that added a sense of progression. They also added the Crypt, which players could unlock new characters, costumes, a bunch of concept arts, and even a cooking video called Cooking with Scorpion.
This week on Cooking with Scorpion, learn about chopping, tenderizing, chopping, cake decorating, and chopping.
This was my shit as a kid. I would spend hours glued to my TV trying to get all the coins to unlock all the coffins, and even more hours watching Lee May jiggle around the battlefield like a cam girl on Payday.
What the fuck are these physics?
And this was just the beginning of this new era of emphasized single player. In the following entry, titled MK Deception, there was definitely no shortage of single player content. The Conquest mode from the previous title would become more fleshed out in a new pseudo open world adventure game. Not only that, but they added puzzle combat and fucking chess combat, which was easily my favorite time sink in this game. Whenever I think of single player content in a fighting game, the first thing that comes to mind is chess combat, because for me, that was hours upon hours spent big braining the AI and beating the proverbial shit out of them after making my move. It was fantastic. I felt like the chess guy, and let's be honest, the chess guy's got all the push. The following titles would follow similar paths, desperate to make sure you wouldn't get bored. Moving into the next generation of gaming and the NRS era, they included story modes that would include cutscenes in between each bout. And while it wasn't as goofy as previous entries, outside of Devora slipping Melina the old tongue and roach, it was a welcome addition nonetheless, and helped flesh out the ever-expanding lore of the MK universe. Okay, enough about Mortal Kombat, because I could sit here and talk about this franchise for hours. Let's take a look at some other ways that developers help their games stand the test of time and make it more than just a glorified domestic abuse simulator. Earlier on in this video, I touched on Super Smash Bros., and while it's not a traditional fighting game and Nintendo hates people even categorizing it as that, and I'll probably get assassinated for even saying this, it's the same in practice. I mean, you press a button and a guy falls over. Let's not kid ourselves, Nintendo, but just call it what it is.
You dumbass.
Things would really pick up with the second entry, Super Smash Bros. Melee. This game was absolutely chock full of content. You had an adventure mode that would serve as a side-scrolling platformer through various stages themed after Nintendo's flagship titles. There was an event match mode that offered 51 different events with special conditions and objectives. A stadium mode that included 3 mini-games, target test, home run contest, and multi-man orgy. There was also an all-star mode that would be available after unlocking all the characters, and this shit was tough because you basically had to clear the entire roster of characters on only one life with minimal heals. Smash also had the trophies, which were a great incentive to go through all these modes in the first place. It sort of served as a gallery of your accomplishments, which I absolutely loved. You could also read the bios of the trophies and even look up Daisy's skirt. You sick fuck. There was even a lottery mode to get you hooked on gambling early, where you could toss your coins into a slot machine to unlock new trophies, further incentivizing gameplay to get coins and trophies. The third entry in the Smash series would get the infamous Subspace Emissary, which was basically Melee's adventure mode on steroids. Quick sidebar, because I feel like I have to include this, but the Subspace Emissary would actually be the theme of a fanfic that would become the longest piece of written literature ever. Yeah, people really like this a lot. This was such a good addition because they were able to tell a pretty good story surrounding Nintendo's characters without even saying a word. Well, except for... I mean, this, coupled with the realism in Mario's bulge and his denim overalls, made for such a good experience, and unfortunately for me, World of Light just wasn't really my thing. It felt like I was playing Google Maps the game, and it wasn't really my cup of tea, but it was rich in stuff, that's for sure. Tekken has been a popular fighting game in arcades for years now, even clinging on to the dying breath of the arcade with its most recent entry. As a kid, a lot of the fun in Tekken not only came from the satisfying sounds of a weirdly animated spin kick, but unlocking all the cutscenes that really fleshed out the characters. Aside from that, Tekken 3 and 4 introduced a mode called Tekken Force, which was a beat-em-up style single-player game mode that would allow you to select the character from the roster and traverse various stages while beating the ever-living shit out of these acrobatic dump truck wielders and picking up chicken. This was a welcome addition because you were able to play as your favorite character from a new perspective and feel a sense of progression. The Tekken series would also goof around with mini-games like Tekken Ball and Tekken Bowl, which, just like their names imply, you would not be fighting an opponent, but rather a beach ball or some pins. There's also Soul Calibur, which, while that was also big in arcades, was even bigger in the living rooms, and it offered a concept, much like these other games I talked about, that has long since been dead, buried, and three-way bukkakied over. Unlocking characters and not fucking paying for them. That was probably the best part about fighting games from that generation. Just unlocking stuff was enough incentive to keep me playing. Whether it was weapons or new characters, just getting all the shit was cool. In Soul Calibur 2, you could unlock new shit by playing through the game's story mode, Weapon Master, which was basically various battles that were segmented with exposition given through text boxes. There were also the DBZ Budokai games, which I absolutely loved, and they attempted a lot of different things with their single player modes, even having like a board game style one, but I think you guys get it by now. A lot of what I mentioned here is still the same gameplay at its core, just with extra flair added to it, but my favorite game modes are the ones that take such a dramatic step back from the meat and potatoes of the base game, like kart racing in Mortal Kombat Armageddon, or chess combat in Mortal Kombat Deception, or finishing a stage with a fucking 2 at the end of my number just so I can unlock Luigi, or even picking up more health than I could ever possibly need just so I can hear chicken one more time. That is the shit that I fuck with. Give me more of that, please, I am begging. It was incentive enough to keep you playing a little while longer, to make you feel like your money, or your parents' money, was well spent. I know this video is a little bit different than what I normally do, and the reason why I wanted to make it in the first place is because till this day I still play a shit shit ton of fighting games, and I'm not a competitive player by any means, but I still thoroughly enjoy them for all the reasons I listed today. In recent years, a lot of developers see online play as a longevity token, even though not everyone likes to get fucked down online by players who have seen fatalities more than their own mother in the last year. And as years pass, we see less and less of a variety when it comes to single player modes in fighting games. With the exception of Mortal Kombat 11, because the story mode is so goddamn good, Towers of Time mode is fantastic, and I will unlock 50 more pairs of boots for Sindel because, I mean, just look at her. This right here, that's incentive enough to keep me playing. Well, also Fujin. While fighting games were and still are a really good way to bring people together, sometimes the lonely stoner likes to free his mind at night and enjoy the things that are just for them, without worrying about whether or not you're good at the game or what a hitbox is or what the hell gameplay meta even means, because none of that matters. All that matters is I'm fucking bowling right now.
Hey, would you look at that? It's the end of the video, and you're still here. Why? No, I'm just kidding. Thank you. Seriously, thank you for making it this far. Thank you for watching this video. And of course, the most biggest and the most disgusting thank you to my beautiful patrons that you see behind me on this wall. Your guys' continued support means the absolute world to me, and it honestly warms my disgusting little heart to see you guys continue to support me, so I really do appreciate it. And also to you, my beautiful subscribers, my viewers, thank you so much for just, you know, sticking around and being real nice and shit. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing or leaving a like or putting a haiku in the comments section. I don't know, I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life, but I read and reply to every single one, so you know you and I are gonna have a discourse. There was so much I wanted to talk about in this video, but I just couldn't for the sake of time. So if there's anything that I missed or any sort of weird single player modes in fighting games that you enjoyed, please leave them in the comments below. And also the mandatory Beef Boys plug. It's the weekly video cast podcast thing that me and my best friends on the internet do. We do it every Wednesday, so go check it out. It's a good time. All right, well, I think that's gonna do it for me. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon. Get out of here. Go grab a Diet Coke or something. All right. I love you guys.